in early childhood care and education pedagogy. Alex, you have the floor.
Thank you.
For 3 minutes.
We are a big team, and unfortunately Alfred is not here with us, so I'm representing the big team.
Please introduce yourself then.
Once again, my name is Chasanku Charles, from the Department of Foundations and Curriculum Studies, College of Education, Makerere. I work with a big team in Uganda, but also with a team from the University of Zambia and an NGO called the Zambia Open Schools Community, ZOX. We are working on this project, and what we intended to present today was simply a small aspect of the big project, the play-based learning. What is the status of PBL in Uganda? Now, in starting up this project, we looked at an initiative from Zambia called the School Readiness Initiative. In it, we look at the triangle. We look at the school, we look at the community, and we look at the home. And in between there is a child. We have a great belief, as evidenced when we visited Zambia, that if there is coordination among the 3 arms, the child will benefit. One aspect we look at is school readiness, the transition between early childhood education to a primary one. There are many questions around there that you need to go back to the triangle to be able to address them. And also, once you understand this tripartite, is it a tripartite? You will be able to provide age-appropriate learning experiences and environments for learners. I have a very long presentation because, according to the program initially, I think we were supposed to give a presentation of not less than 5 minutes. Now, because the dynamics have changed, I also have to change. I will tell you that there is a lot happening about play-based learning and its implementation. Our focus were ECD centers attached to public primary schools. We visited the 4 regions of Uganda, and in each region we visited 2 districts. In the districts, we went to the district education offices. We identified a core PTC. We visited the primary schools that parent the ECD centers, so we saw the head teachers. We also dialogued with the ECD heads, the teachers in the ECDs. We talked to the principals in PTCs and teacher trainers. We only have one arm that we are yet to visit. That is the Ministry of Education and Sports. We are still in the baseline stage, although we have collected quite good data, but we need to corroborate what we have collected from the field there with what the ministry shall give to us.
Charles, perhaps very quickly, are there any preliminary impressions from your discussions that you can share with us here?
Yes, they are.
Just 1 or 2 very preliminary
concerning
ones.
The perception of stakeholders, the parents, the providers, there is negativity when it comes to play, especially for us. We are looking at the local play. We are looking at the use of locally available materials, low or no cost materials. We are looking at if these are songs, these are local, because learning happens from the known to unknown. Most of the parents have a negative attitude. Someone will tell you, why should I send my kid to a school to waste time playing? Why should I send my kid to a school where they speak local language? So that is partly, and many other voices. Now, when it comes to the state of implementation, we have a gap, especially with the teachers. And this was verified by people there said actually they don't have a course, a specific course training students on how to design a specific course. It is done as a blend into the various available courses. And also, when you reach schools, people's idea of materials for play are the exotic. And yet in the environment in which they live, there are adequate items that they can use to support both inside the classroom and outside classroom play activities.
Thank you very much, Charles, for that. And once again, sorry to make you contract what you had prepared. But just very briefly, from what we are picking from that, we are proposing here in this symposium to be able to identify those solutions that can help us to be able to increase the access for ECCE, but also make sure that it is happening within a safe learning environment. So when you share with us those negative attitudes that are over there, I think during the action planning also, we'll have to come up with how can we be able to handle that, because the community won't go away, and we learned that we need to be able to make sure that different actors in the system are in place as well. So I think we pick those lessons to be able to guide what it is that we should be doing. I had promised Agatha a minute because I had cut her short and the other speakers had a little longer time. So Agatha, kindly, in a minute or so, finalize that contribution, and then we shall have some feedback from the audience.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. To answer your specific question that you had posed earlier, working together with the AfriChild Center, we are trying to innovate using research to come up with a model that is community initiated, community-owned and community-led to address barriers to access. As social workers, we believe and espouse the model of the value of self-determination, recognizing that communities are resourceful and communities have strength and communities should be in charge of their own destinies. Appreciating also that communities are hindered by structural barriers. So what we are doing at the AfriChild Center is working together with the communities. Our research is still in the design stages. We're beginning to do the formative work, and we hope that through this research we shall be able to actually test whether we can come up with a community-initiated, owned and led model to try and address the current barriers to accessing early childhood development services, using resources that are within the communities, but also built on a philosophy of decolonizing the research that we do and ensuring that the indigenous knowledge is integrated in child development work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agatha. And once again, we thank you very much. We did a marathon and we didn't do justice, but we thought that we can already begin the conversation going. So I believe this is not the end. This provided us an opportunity just to understand the range of research and innovative activities that are going on and that are providing evidence. And I'm sure this will help to guide the delivery of ECCE, but more importantly, as we go into programming, as we go into designing, what are those considerations, very key considerations, and especially like Agatha is saying, who are the other actors who have not been in with us in ECCE that we need to be able to bring them on. So kindly join me to raise an applause to the speakers. And Dr. Kabugo, I hope we have 2 minutes to take some feedback from the audience. Okay, please. So if we can have any contribution, either questions or observations, it might be specific to the speakers, or it might be a general observation. Kindly, you're welcome. And online, I hope our online participants are on. I don't know if there's anything in the chat box for our speakers. Yes, Dr. Kabugo.
how do we decolonize our pedagogy? How do we, and I'm forgetting your name, but from AfriChild, that's a wonderful lens through which a social culture perspective, social culture historical activity perspective is an interesting way of transforming whatever we do. We want action points. How do we ensure that our ways of working, our pedagogy, our models, our theories, our resources are ingrained in a social culture perspective? Carol, be very specific.
Okay, there is a microphone. Thank you very much, Dr. Kabugo. Okay, going specific is that, first of all, it's educating our mindset and our attitudes toward who we are. It's very important that all of us get to realize that we have an origin which is African by base, and we need to appreciate who we are. And that will be sensitization of masses, including parents and teachers, that our beliefs surface and we question them to see whether they are for the child or against the child. Then we educate ourselves against those which are negative. The second one is creating a link between the home and the school. And I'm glad that the last speaker mentioned something about this. My research too addresses the triangle, where there should be continuity of what the child learns. That if we are training for the home, then the activities in the school should have a likeliness of what is happening at home and what happens in the community. Because if you teach something a child cannot practice within the home, it means that it is useless to them. What is useful should be readily applicable at home and in the school. And our curricula should be developmentally appropriate and contextually relevant, that the children use the knowledge they learn immediately when they go back home. It should be result-based, and they should have products that relate to developing Africa and not sustaining a kind of superficial learning where we are not going to apply anything that is quite Western. Early childhood is a time when everything we do must ground the child into who he is. And UNESCO clearly puts it, that let the children be, let the children be. What is it to be? Is to be that African child. And we are not saying that they should not know about where they are going. They can know about where they are going, but after knowing who they are. And being firm in who they are, we can enable them to now transit. So the content should first of all question our beliefs, question our practices, and also question our own ideologies about early learning. Because many a time, we don't believe in who we are, and we want to be somebody else. Until we realize who we are not going to develop Africa. We are going to remain like that. I thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a tall order, but you have helped us see that. But we also have to remember that we live in a global community, so we'll need to be able to see how do we keep those tenets that we call, and I know there's nothing general as African, because we'd rather talk about Ugandan or ethnicities, depending on where we are from, then to be able to also marry that with the fact that it's a global community. How do we also prepare them to be able to embrace that? Do we have another question? Can we have a mic in the middle of the room, please, or she can come up? Whichever is faster. Thank you. As she gets the mic, is there any other hand or is there any other comment before I hand over them? I see one hand. Any other hand I haven't seen? Okay, then there's one more hand and we will close this session.
Thank you so much. From the different models that have been exhibited since the...
Would you mind saying your name and affiliation if possible as you ask? Thank you.
Yes, my name is Nabkalu Kevin. I'm a practitioner of early childhood and I'm happy to be here. And from what has been presented since the start of the symposium, it is so evident that we have two models that have been working, the informal one and the formal one. How are we planning to marry the two? Not to marry the two, but to support the two in their two different contexts. Because you will find that we have, but then we have the informal ones that we've proven to work, like the different models that have been working in the different communities. How can we support the model